Hello everyone again, and welcome for those who just joined us. We are starting our June webinar today featuring Fernando Labastida. He'll be talking about content marketing. Fernando is a passionate proponent of content marketing. He organized the first Latin American track for South by Southwest Interactive Conference and co-organized the debut edition of the Americas IT Forum in Austin. Also, he has spoken at Product Camp Austin, the RISE Multicultural Conference, and the Austin Social Media Club. Fernando is currently the Customer Success Manager at social media software provider Small World Labs, and he's a friend of the house, so please welcome Fernando Labastida. Fernando, here I thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So,
hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me okay. And I will be sharing my slides momentarily here. Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, and so as my namesake, we call him in Spanish, Fernando Flores is my tocayo. He has my same name. As Fernando mentioned, I've spoken at various events, and if you are up for it, November 14th to 17th, I'll actually be speaking at a conference on the beach, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, the Engage Mexico Social Media Conference. Fun and sun, as well as social media learning. It's going to be a great time. I'll get right into it. I'm giving this this talk about social media. About content marketing at a very interesting time in which content marketing has become somewhat of a buzzword. There's even this so-called content marketing backlash that's existed. It's actually going around right now. But I wanted to get into the fundamentals as to why content marketing is such an important thing right now, especially, and talk to you about 5 fundamental pillars that I think lend towards a successful content marketing strategy that drives sales to your business. So what is content marketing? I stole this from a Copyblogger. Content marketing means creating and sharing valuable free content to attract and convert prospects to customers and repeat buyers. And the type of content you share is really closely related to what you sell, right? So you're educating people. So I don't agree with reading word for word slides, but in this case I think it's important because these words are going to be, I'm going to elucidate on these words later on in the presentation. Valuable free content, please keep that in mind, valuable. Attract and convert prospects into customers into repeat buyers. You know, many times people will worry about the content and will forget about the fact that your content marketing has a purpose, and that is to attract buyers who will actually eventually become customers and purchase your product and your service. Perfect example of somebody doing content marketing, Lander. We're providing a free seminar series, Lander Academy. There's me today. We had Javier Colomes last month who talked about creating your personas, and we've had various distinguished presenters giving away free valuable content. But what's the purpose? You know, Lander has a spectacular landing page platform that they eventually want you to consider to maybe sign up for a free trial. That's content marketing in action. You know, if you go to their blog, you'll see it in action as well. So what's the problem? First of all, let's get into why content marketing. You know, the web has fundamentally changed the way we do things. I know this is not news to anybody right now. I think that's a meme that's been going around and has been kind of beaten to death. But you know, to use 2 tired cliches, the genie's been let out of the bottle, and there's no way to and also Pandora's box has been open and we can't get the genie back into the bottle. Okay, 14.3 trillion web pages live on the internet. Let that sink in for a minute. That's an incredible amount of web content, and that was as of not too long ago. Of course, that's probably increased now, and the The size of the web is increasing exponentially. We don't have monopolies on your time anymore. You know, there used to be a time when there were three TV networks. And so for the big advertisers, large corporations who could afford to advertise, they could make you sit through their advertisement while you were waiting for the next installment of your favorite TV show. You know, no more. There's no longer a monopoly on your time. What does that 14.3 trillion figure mean for us? It means that we don't ever, as consumers, we don't ever have to sit through something that we don't want to watch or read ever again. You know, so that's the fundamental shift that we have to keep in mind. Our consumers have infinite choice almost, and they are out there looking for what they want to watch, for what they want to consume. Not what you want them to consume, not what you think they should consume, but what they want to consume. Right? The internet has also leveled the playing field. Again, another cliche. We've seen how the power of a mainframe computer is now in the palm of your hand, right? You know, in your smartphone, your tablet, or your phablet, your Google Glass. But that's another great opportunity, you know, because now the tools of the trade, the tools that usually the large media companies use to monopolize their hold on media is now available for everybody. You know, we can now become all journalists, aka bloggers. We can now all become radio, TV, radio talk show hosts, aka podcasters, and television production companies, you know, aka YouTube channels. Now, granted, you know, you're probably thinking, well, that means that there's a lot of garbage out there, and that's true. There is a lot of garbage out there. I would say about 99% of the content out there is not worth anything, but that is not a problem. That is a huge opportunity for you as a current content marketer or as a budding content marketer to be able to differentiate yourself by providing valuable content to your audience. So a little bit about the background, content marketing. I'm going to talk about, like I said, the 5 steps to a successful content marketing strategy. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and I'm sure I've left some other important things that other speakers and other bloggers would talk about. These are things that I think are very important and a great starting point. Okay. The first pillar to a successful content marketing strategy: provide overwhelming value. I was listening to a podcast given by Brian Clark over at Entre. Brian Clark is the founder of Copyblogger.com. He's also the founder of Entre, which is an effort that he and Robert Bruce and some other of his cohorts have put together to provide information to help startups use content as a new kind of startup marketing tool. But in this podcast, what they did was Brian Clark and Robert Bruce essentially answered the questions that their audience had provided to them on their blog. Right? So one of the interesting questions that a reader had was, how do I know when I'm sharing too much information on my blog or my video, etc.? And the answer from Brian Clark was, if you feel like you're giving away too much, you're on the right track, right? So think about this for a minute. It sounds a little backwards, you know. Well, hold on a second. I was always taught that you don't reveal any information until the customer has given you information. That kind of tit for tat, the kind of exchange, you know, the equal exchange of information. That's the way I was always taught as a previous enterprise software sales guy. But this goes back to actually an ancient principle, the principle of reciprocity, that even the Native Americans of the Pacific Northwest, from the very top part of what's now Washington State all the way up to Canadian West Coast, they brought this to a fine art. The potlatch, these were ceremonial gatherings where members of the tribe would get together and they would give each other gifts, right? And so as Wikipedia says, the status of any given family is raised not by who has the most resources, but by who distributes the most resources, right? So creating this sense of reciprocity, I give you something and you feel indebted to me, and you will give me your business. This, the law of reciprocity is mentioned by Robert Cialdini, who wrote the book Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. You know, that we as humans, we feel a little bit guilty if we are indebted to somebody and we want to pay back that debt, right? In the case of content marketing, though, the value that you produce, the value that you give to your customers is way over and beyond the normal reciprocity that I think even Cialdini was talking about. I mean, giving way more value. I mentioned Brian Clark before. Copyblogger is actually one of my favorite blogs. They talk about content marketing. They talk about copywriting. I've been a faithful reader of the blog since 2009. They give away the farm, essentially. You know, they have a series called Copywriting 101. They also have a series called Content Marketing 101. They have a whole series on email marketing, authority, etc. They have this this thing called Internet Marketing for Smart People, which was actually a 20-part email course that if you subscribe to it, you would get, you know, as a drip email campaign. Every 3 days, you would get a new lesson, you know, free information. I even heard that when he launched his blog, he actually went a full year and a half just providing valuable information, building his audience, building a loyal, actually a rabid fan base of readers and subscribers before he even started selling anything. And his first product was actually the Teaching Sales seminar. Taking another example, the Content Marketing Institute. They're giving away the secret sauce. They're giving away the tools of the trade. I mean, this is incredible. This is stuff that normally would cost you thousands of dollars to pay a consultant for. And this blog post, they're providing 17 essential content templates and checklists. Everything from a content calendar to persona, worksheets, etc. This is great. This is incredible. So why are content marketers giving away such valuable information? I mean, they're almost like they're giving away their secret sauce. Well, it's the concept of, Sean D'Souza calls it the bikini concept. The bikini concept is, well, you know, we will give away 95% of what we have, and we'll leave the 5%, you know, to be found out later on. Obviously, that's not a very good metaphor for me. I look terrible in a bikini, but I think that the metaphor sort of works, right? And suppose you do give away your secret sauce, you know, the secret to what makes you a successful consultant. Suppose you sell consulting services, okay? Why give that away when you may not have customers come to you anymore and pay your high consulting fees? Well, actually, the opposite is true. What actually ends up happening is that your customers will say, well, this is great, but I don't have the time to do this, and I might as well just go to Joe or Stephen anyway, because he's the expert, he's the authority, and he'll do this for me far better than I could, right? We have another example, Jenis Splendid ice cream. I understand, I've never tried their ice cream, but I understand that they're one of the best ice cream producers in the United States, based out of Ohio. They make everything out of fresh ingredients. They have a spectacular content marketing strategy. They regularly publish blog posts, videos. They have a great Pinterest presence, Tumblr, etc. I mean, they just produce beautiful content, especially a lot of visual, graphical content about their ice creams and how it's made, etc. This particular one, Jenny's at Home, they actually produced a book. You have to pay, you know, whatever, like $29 for a nice kind of cookbook that goes great on your coffee table at home. But what do they provide with this book? They provide the recipes so that you can go and make Jenis ice cream at home. So essentially they're giving away their secret sauce, right? They're the recipe to how they make their ice cream. And obviously you think you're spending money on a book, but actually that's content marketing to the max. Okay. And of course people are going to still go to Jenis Splendid ice cream because they've just built up a complete brand presence that the whole experience, eating the ice cream, going to one of their stores, watching their content, nobody can reproduce that. Okay. So value, I think we got value down. But value is subjective. Value means value to a particular person. So one person's value is another person's, garbage, essentially. So you got to think about, okay, value according to who? What is your target market? Who is your persona that you're focusing on? And actually we had a previous seminar given by Javier Colomes, a previous Lander Academy, who talked in detail about how to put together your persona. So I really recommend going back to the archives of the Lander blog and learning about how to put together a persona so that you can fulfill this pillar in the content marketing strategy. But focus on the person. It's not just the person, but it's also the person plus the unmet need, right? Which means the content marketing success. And in many cases, it's not just going to be a segment of the market. Let's just say college-aged women who are going to apply to college in the Northeast could be a segment of your market, could be your target market. But a persona actually encompasses many other things, such as how they think, what are their beliefs, are they conservative, liberal, what is their worldview? Seth Godin talks about their worldview, right? So what is the worldview of the persona that you're targeting, and what is their unmet need? So going back to the Copyblogger example, I know I'm kind of beating that horse to death, but Copyblogger's strategy was to focus on a particular type of person. These were bloggers who, back in the year 2004, 2005, blogging was more of an art form, more of an type of self-expression, and you were the devil if you were going to try to sell something on your blog, right? But then Copyblogger Brian Clark came with the same kind of blogger aesthetic, but he said, okay, let's apply traditional copywriting principles, the copywriting principles of people like Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham, even, people like Ogilvy. Let's combine the two, and let's teach bloggers how to make money in their sort of blogger aesthetic, right? And so that was unmet need with a certain segment of bloggers who wanted to make money in a tasteful way, not in the cheesy sort of direct marketing kind of way that the traditional direct marketers did, although Brian Clark admires those people a lot. There is another example, Rockin' Realty. Actually, that's my sister. She's a real estate agent in Austin, Texas. So if you know anything about Austin, you'll know that there's sort of a mantra of Austinites they like to repeat as often as they can to people who visit from out of town. Keep Austin weird. We like to keep Austin weird. We also like to say we're the live music capital of the world. And so everything that encompasses, such as we like things that are organic. We like taking care of the environment, saving pets. A lot of Austinites are vegan and they like to wear that on their sleeve, etc. My sister's actually all that. She's been in the music scene since she was a teenager, and she married a rock and roller, and that's the kind of realtor that she is, and she appeals to that type of person. In Austin, there was actually no real estate agent that kind of appealed directly to that type of person who liked that Austin weird aesthetic. The only realtors that were really available out there were the ones, you picture the Farrah Fawcett big hair with the dress suit and the large headshot plastered on their real estate sign or in their greeting card, or the guy with the dark suit. She met the unmet need of the person who didn't want to have that kind of real estate agent. They didn't want to have the high pressure. They wanted somebody who understood their needs for an eclectic neighborhood where they could bike to school and work, etc. And that's what she talks about in her blog. I mean, she If you go to rockandrealty.net, you'll see a lot of the content that she provides appeals exactly to that kind of persona. Okay. The third pillar.
Hi.
Hello?
Yes. Hi, Fernando.
Oh.
Do you want?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to ask our audience the question you had prepared? Okay.
Yes.
So here it goes. This is a question Fernando has for all of you. Do you feel you have time to manage a content marketing strategy? So I'll give you some time to answer. At the meantime, I want to remind you that you can ask your questions using the question box here in the GoToWebinar platform, or you can use it. You can use Twitter using our hashtag Lender Academy. And those of you who are more active, asking questions and comments and giving some also tips to Fernando, we'll have some prizes we have ready for you. So keep the questions coming. We'll have a 15 minutes Q&A section at the end of the webinar, so don't worry if we don't answer them right away. Okay, so we have almost 80% of people voted. Just a few seconds more. Okay, close. And those are the answers. We have a 46% that says, yes, I do. And we have an 18% that says no, they don't have the time to manage a content marketing strategy, and a 36% that says maybe.
Okay, good. Good. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah, and so that's an interesting dilemma for every one of us, especially those of us who are one-person operations, if we're freelancers or consultants, or if we're very, very small, tiny companies. You know, do we have the time to do this? Do we have the time to produce content on a regular basis? You know, so yeah, content marketing is all great in theory, but what about the practice? How can I churn out regular content as if I was another media company? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here. And really the third pillar that I wanted to discuss is, you know, we got to become the media. And that's difficult. That is very hard. Gary Vaynerchuk, the wine guy, you know him because of the wine library. He started as a young, essentially an employee of his family's liquor store in New York, or was it New Jersey? I can't remember exactly. And he started literally video podcasting, video blogging. Really, it was daily. He would produce a daily video about wine and about taste and the texture and the smell and etc. He has in this article. There's a fantastic article actually that just came out in Forbes about how his media strategy will change your media strategy or something like that. And he says he has no patience for people who say they don't have time. And I thought, wow, that's not very that's not very nice for those of us who have a lot on our plates. But actually, that's kind of like the cost of entry. If media is essentially free right now, if we don't have to pay for it, we do have to pay for it in some way, and that's with our time. But the benefits are tremendous. What do we have to do to become the media? Well, we have to share on a regular basis. We have to have some kind of a regular schedule of sharing, just like a TV program. You know, are we going to publish once a week, maybe once every Sunday at the same time every morning? Or are we going to publish 2 times a week, every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning? Some kind of regularity, just like a standard media company has. Soap operas, same thing. Everybody expects their favorite soap opera to come on at the exact same time. The news programs that they like. I love listening to National Public Radio. Comes on at 5 o'clock every day. The news program that I love to listen to. What's the advantage of creating your own media? You know, being the media. Well, it takes us out of the rat race, if you will, of generating leads from borrowed media. You know, the traditional method is we put an advertisement in the newspaper, we run a TV advertisement, or we do telemarketing. We hire a team of telemarketers to go and generate leads from scratch. So it's a continuous rat race. We're having to find out where the leads are and generate the leads. When you create your own media destination, you know, your own platform, as Chris Brogan talks about it, he's always talking about you've got to create your own platform. What do? You attract your own audience, and you don't have to go on that continuous lead generation rat race anymore. So an example from the olden days. The olden days of 1956, when Procter & Gamble wanted to start selling soap. All of a sudden, they realized there was this new thing called TV out there. And in 1956, they created As the World Turns as a way to get in front of housewives. Because they had a dilemma. How am I going to get in front of housewives and let them know about the soap that we produce? That's how the first soap opera was actually conceived. As a TV program so that they can attract housewives with fantastic drama, you know, providing value, and then the interstitials, the soap commercials in between. Also, when you think about your personas, think about the content types that fit their personality. You know, if you're producing content for copywriters or content marketers like the Content Marketing Institute, obviously written content is probably going to be your best bet. You got to really know your audience intimately. If you're producing content for teens, video might be the best way. 6-second videos might be the best way to do this, right? Think about the content type that fits perfectly with the lifestyle and the learning preferences of your personas. And then, this is my favorite one, guest appearances. You know, let's take an example of a movie star. You know, somebody who's sort of becoming all of a sudden very popular in the movies. When that person starts getting invited to go on Jay Leno or David Letterman or Saturday Night Live, you know, that's when they start getting a lot of exposure, right? The music world. Lil Wayne, two of my sons love Lil Wayne, Drake, J. Cole, all those guys. Lil Wayne, when he really started shooting to fame, he started getting guest appearances with some of the biggest hip-hop artists out there. You know, there's Lil Wayne with Jay-Z. I'm sorry. Yep. Nope. Dr. Dre. You know, so that's the key to your success as well. You know, get guest appearances on the favorite blogs that your target audience, your target personas are reading on a regular basis. Maybe they don't go to blogs. Maybe they are reading industry publications like Computer World, for example, or IT Business Edge if you're selling software. You know, find ways to become a guest blogger all over the place. That's one of the things that another one of my favorite bloggers out there, James Altucher. James Altucher writes his blog posts all over the place now, not just on his own blog, jamesaltucher.com, but he's writing his blog posts on Copyblogger, on LouRockwell.com, on many other blogs out there. And then social media, showing content on social media. Obviously, you know, one of the things that is probably the biggest driver of readers to your content are the people who are influencers in your space, sharing your content through the various social media outlets that are there. When I was starting my own, I had a consultancy. For 2 years I was running a one-man consultancy called Latin IT Marketing, in which I was providing marketing consulting services to essentially software development firms based out of Latin America, right? And so I was writing articles. It was pretty much every 2 to 3 days I was writing a new article on my blog about the 5 steps to entering the U.S. market, or the 7 strategies for selling software, when you're first entering the U.S. market, stuff like that. And my 2 biggest social media outlets for bringing readers back to my blog were Twitter and LinkedIn. And actually, LinkedIn was probably one of my best sources of readers. But it was, again, think about the audience. Think about who your personas are. Are they business oriented? So they're that participating in more professional networks, or are they more casual participants in social media? Are they very graphical oriented? Use your content as a market research tool. On EntreProducer, that's really a site that I recommend everybody visit, especially if you're a startup software company, because so many of the articles there are all about how to use content not only to build an initial audience, if you're following the lean startup process, but also as a market research tool, using the comments section of your blog to really get that qualitative information that you need. And when I say qualitative information, I'm talking about, well, what are some of what are some of the things that people are saying that they're having a problem with? What are some of the questions that keep on repeating themselves across the comment sections in my blog posts? What are people saying? Well, they'd like more of this or that or the other, or what are some of their dreams, their persistent headaches, etc. Eric Ries, the founder of the Lean Startup methodology, the author of Lean Startup, in a podcast that I heard of his, he was being interviewed, and he talked about how when he first launched his blog, The Lean Startup, even before he published his book, The Lean Startup, he was publishing his blog post as an anonymous publisher. He was so embarrassed because he didn't want people to think that, well, who is this guy? What does he even know about startup marketing? So he started writing, very valuable information, but he was anonymous. People didn't know who he was. Until finally people started really flocking to his blog, subscribing to his RSS feed and his email list, and commenting on his blog post. They say, come on, guy, you really need to reveal yourself. We want to know who you are. We want to ask you questions, etc. So again, from the comment section, he finally revealed himself, and that really made a difference in his blog. Going back to James Altucher, again, he actually uses another form of feedback. He actually will post full articles on Facebook first before publishing them on his blog. And that way he does that because he wants to see what kind of feedback he gets. And he usually gets about 30 to 50 comments. Most of them are very positive on his Facebook page, right? But one of the great ways that you can use your content is for analytics. When I was starting out with LatinITmarketing.com, I was constantly writing articles about how to enter the U.S. market, different aspects about, how to sell your software consulting services in the U.S., etc. But I started noticing that there was very few people coming to my site through Google Analytics who were actually using the search term enter the U.S. market. A few people who did come in through Google were actually typing things like how to sell software or something like that. So I started writing articles about how to sell software, and that's when my readership exploded. I get a lot of comments now from people saying, hey, I'd like to get more advice about how to sell software. I'm a new salesperson with this company, etc. And, that's, if I were to start taking my blog seriously again at LatinIT Marketing, I think I'll redirect it towards providing consulting and writing a book about how to sell software, but in Spanish. This would be a content and a book and consulting oriented towards training enterprise software salespeople in Latin America, just because those are the comments that I'm getting and those are the kind of visits that I'm getting to my blog. finally, get them to subscribe. I think, Fernando, we had another question for this part.
Yes, yes, I'm launching it. Let me, right here we have a new question, a new poll. And Fernando now wants to ask you, have you launched a regular email newsletter? I don't know, Fernando, do you want to give some more explanation about it?
Yeah, I mean, have you launched any kind of regular, either a weekly, monthly, daily newsletter, or do you have some way of posting your blog posts to email so that every time you publish a blog post, you have a way for subscribers to get the blog post? Typically that comes from an RSS to email program.
Right, here we're getting to the email marketing part of the content marketing, right? And how you can work both, maybe your blog and your email newsletter, or an ebook or some sort of content that you have developed and you want to get your subscribers to know. And yes, I can tell you from my experience that email marketing, it's a really good way to get to your clients and your prospects.
Well, there's even Lander even has a sister company, Doppler, that provides, it's actually an email marketing tool.
Exactly.
People can actually get there by going to fromdoppler.com, F-R-O-M, Doppler, D-O-P-P-L-E-R.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can even try the free trial. You have unlimited campaigns to send, so give it a try. It's a really good tool. Okay, so we're done with the poll. Almost everyone has answered, so I'll close and we'll see the results. Here they are. So 62% of our attendees, yes, they have launched a regular email newsletter, Fernando, and just 14% haven't. And we have a 24% that it's planning to.
Okay, perfect.
Okay?
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that 52% is really good. I think people are starting to realize that email. A friend of ours, Brian, the conversion scientist. I forgot his last name for a second.
Brian Macy, you mean?
Yeah, Brian Massey, exactly. Brian Massey. Senior moment there. So Brian Massey refers to email as the largest social network in the world because even your grandmother uses email, right? My grandmother's actually on Facebook too, but she's hardly ever there. She uses email far more often. But yes, so subscribe. I mean, if you're a media company, the thing that you want people to do is to subscribe to you. If you produce a magazine, you go to the grocery store, you go to Barnes & Noble, Borders when it was still around, you saw these huge racks of magazines. Maybe you'd buy the copy of that magazine that you like so much once every 6 months if you went and saw it on the magazine rack, just because maybe there was an attractive image, you had a great headline, all the classical copywriting techniques that publishers use to get you to pick up their magazine and read it and buy it. But they always are pushing people to subscribe to that magazine. You always have those little pieces of cardboard paper that fall out of the magazine when you go and read it in the store, and you always try and rush to put the little cardboard back. Those are the subscription forms, and now with TiVo or with your DVR, there's a way to subscribe to your favorite TV program by putting putting Sons of Anarchy or Game of Thrones on your DVR and repeating record, right? So that you can go back and watch your stuff on a regular basis. Because what happens is that we get lazy and we sometimes don't, forget to go back and watch our program on purpose, or we forget to go, our readers forget to go to our blog because they're just so busy. What do we want them to do? We want them to subscribe. We want them to opt in, right? We want them to an opt-in comes from permission marketing, which Seth Godin christened back in, I think it was 1998 or 1999 with his, debut book Permission Marketing. When they have given us, when our readers have given us permission to go ahead and send them an email directly, that's huge. That's because they've opted into it. They've chosen to receive your email. And that means that you're going to become an even more addictive habit for them. Now, if you're like me, though, you probably have a lot of subscriptions, right? And I am regularly, I think every quarter, I purge my subscriptions. I unsubscribe to, at least 5 to 10 subscriptions that I subscribe to. But even given that, even given the avalanche of inbox, the unmanageable inbox, when you have people subscribe to you, especially, again, if we go back to point number 1, you're providing very valuable content that's relevant to your target market, they're going to open that email. I know there were a few emails I constantly, I wait for, and I can't wait to get it open. One of them is Copyblogger, the other one is StephenPressfield.com. He's the author of several books, novels, and books about writing, right? This is a great statistics by the Content Marketing Institute, where this is anecdotal evidence based on their own statistics, that they said that their subscribers to their email list were more likely to attend their events, purchase their products, share their content, and they were able to close the people who were their subscribers 3 times faster, those ones who were actually in a sales process, than those who were not subscribers, right? And like we said earlier, Lander's sister company, Doppler, provides a really awesome redesigned, restructured email marketing tool called Doppler, and you can go to fromdoppler.com to check that out. Yeah, and that's really all for the presentation, for the 5 fundamental, what I think are the fundamental pillars for a content marketing strategy. There are a lot more. We can get into a lot more detail about content marketing strategy that I can possibly cover over here. It's a huge topic, but I think the importance of these 5 pillars are really to get the mindset straight, really to get the mindset of value. You're producing value. You're really providing overwhelming value to your customers. You're focusing on a specific target audience that their persona intimately, their psychology intimately, and what their unmet needs are. You're becoming the media. You have to essentially think of yourself as a media company. You're not just a product company or service company anymore. You're a media company. And that goes hand in hand with what businesses have always been. The businesses have always been fundamentally marketing companies, even though we think we're making shoes or we think we're providing cleaning services. In reality, as Peter Drucker said, we are fundamentally marketing companies that happen to have a particular service or product that we sell. Okay, but now we're media companies. Okay, content marketing is a great market research tool. The explosion of social media enables that. Enables us to use our content to engage our readers, to engage our viewers, to engage our customers. It's a great way of starting a conversation, right, through our content. And it's a great way to get feedback for our products before we even launch a product, or if you want to change a product to drive higher sales, right? And then finally, how do we get people to, how do we leverage our content so that we can bridge that gap between people who are readers, avid readers of our content, to become people who are purchasers of our products and services? And really, the way to bridge that gap is email. That's where you have the captive audience finally when they subscribe to your email list. You can provide emails that also invite them to subscribe to a paid service. If you have a free membership service, but you also have a premier membership service, that's where you can provide that call to action to come to your landing page that you could build in Lander and invite them to become a customer. You can sell your books that way. Do all sorts of things. Email is really the key to get people from your content to become purchasers of your product or service. And they're already primed. And so this is really, I think, the most important thing to keep in mind. That value that you're providing for them on a regular basis as a media company primes them to become customers. They feel so indebted to you. They feel, I mean, I literally felt guilty reading the content from Copyblogger and from Content Marketing Institute. Thinking, golly, these guys are giving this away for free? Imagine what it's like to actually pay for their stuff. And I have spent a lot of money with both companies. And that's it. There's so much more we could talk about.
Okay,
And,
Fernando, yeah, that's great. We have a few questions here that I think we can use these minutes that we have now to answer. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Great, perfect. Okay, here we have Adnan that says, what if someone has already been giving away valuable content in the field that you are in? How do you compete with that?
Okay. So that's where we get into the persona and the unmet need of that persona. So I want to go back to my sister, who's the realtor, the real estate agent, rockinrealty.net. Okay. So there's no shortage of real estate agents. You know, real estate agents are a dime a dozen, and a lot of them, frankly, have a lot of blogs out there. Okay. But a lot of the blogs are oriented towards different types of people, right? So if you can find some way of differentiating your content, right, and of maybe focusing on a different type of audience than what your competitors are focusing on, right? So, you know, let me give you an example in the B2B world, okay? So suppose you have systems integrators or consulting companies, right, and they focus on the content management space. Content management is a type of industry or a type of software that provides you with the tools and the templates to produce content and to publish that content on the web. Right? WordPress is a content management tool. Drupal, Joomla are content management tools. You have Kintico and Sitecore, et cetera, which are .NET, Microsoft-based content management tools. If you are producing content that, if you're blogging about information or content oriented towards potential customers of a content management tool, you could produce content that's specifically oriented towards people who are in a .NET environment, right, versus people who use a lot of Java and MySQL and PHP in their environment, right? So think about how can you differentiate your audience. You know, what's the subset of potential customers that you can focus on, that you can have a specialty in that your competitor doesn't. Yeah. And I think that there's no competition out there. Really, we call it competition, but there's so much room for everybody out there that there's no need to worry about competition if you focus on a particular unmet need of a particular target audience.
Okay, that's great. I hope. Oh, yeah, Adnan thanks you for the answer. Okay, and he says the Bikini Rule. What if the 5% you have ends up being repetitive from the free information you have provided?
Okay, could you repeat that again, Fernando?
This is the Bikini Rule. What if the 5% you have ends up being repetitive from the free information you have provided? I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, like if you're providing paid information.
I'm not sure. Maybe Adnan, you can ask, give us some more information.
Oh, I think you're talking about the bikini concept. The 5% that you reveal. What if that's
right?
What if the 5% that you've left uncovered is okay? So really, what Sean D'Souza talks about, and consultants regularly talk about, is that, you know, this content that you share, even though you might be giving away some of your most valuable content, in reality, what you keep to yourself and what you charge the big bucks for is the process, right? So maybe you're saying a quick how-to, a tactic here and there. You know, maybe you provide a lot of tactics, right? But it's the integrated, complete process and your experience, right? Your experience as a seasoned professional, you have 10,000, what is it, Malcolm Gladwell says, we all, to become experts, we have to have 10,000 hours of practice under our belts to become experts. You're the one that provides that, and you have a particular process that you implement. And that's why, for example, Copyblogger, when they give away their free content, such as Copywriting 101, Internet Marketing for Smart People, they still sell out on their $2,000 teaching sales course because they provide a particular defined process that is, people say, wow, if their free stuff is this good, then this process is going to really put me over the limit. It's going to put me over the top in terms of success. So that 5% is your proprietary process.
Yes, here he says, oh, okay, I got it. So, cool, thanks. Here we have another question from Dan Lee. He says, when creating a blog, how can you continually get new information to give? I think that's a pretty common problem we usually have, right?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the number 4 point that I have. I mean, really, if there's a way that you can use the comment section of your blog, if you can find a way to get people to comment on your blog posts, that's a great way. I mean, there's always new questions out there that people are asking, different ways of asking a question, different nuances that people want to have particular answers on that you could provide answers to. There's no end to the kind of questions that people have. If you don't have a lot of people commenting on your blog, or maybe you have 0 comments, you could always go to Quora or LinkedIn Answers and find out from those 2 networks. I know there's several other areas. What are people asking on Quora and on LinkedIn Answers? And find the kind of questions that people are asking and provide and write blog posts to answer those questions. So I mean, and this gets back into providing value to a particular persona that you're targeting. You really got to find out how you can make your blog as reader-centric or as user-centric as possible, right? Focusing exclusively on the needs of your customers, right? And keeping your ear to the ground, keeping your have your listening skills turned on. And when I say listening skills, I mean what are the tools that you're using to monitor your keywords? You have a Google alert system going for the keywords that are oriented towards your particular industry, right? And you could do Google alerts to go to your email, or you can use Google alerts and then put them into your Feedly reader or any other kind of RSS reader, and that way on a daily basis look at what other people are talking about, look at the comments on other competing blogs, and maybe you write answers to questions that people have on those comments.
Yes, I think.
I hope that answered the question.
I hope so too. I mean, from my experience and here at Lander, the best answer we had was when we listened to our customers and they asked us for specific content for our blog post, and so we have just to give them some answers, and that's the best way. We have to learn to hear our clients, our target. I think that's a good advice. And here we have, I think, our last question of today that says, Paul says, I don't have a content marketing strategy yet. Where should I start? Maybe a blog?
Yeah, so I think that the content marketing strategy, to create a content marketing strategy, you could get into creating a complete strategy, with a detailed planning document, and you could do things like, okay, I'm going to focus on what are my goals first. My goals are to generate 1,000 new subscribers, and out of those 1,000 new subscribers, I'm going to generate X number of new prospects and Y number of new sales. Okay, great. So once I have those goals, then what's the let's focus on who are my goals with? What is my persona? So we got to look at what is my ideal target market, and then what's the kind of content that's going to appeal to them, and where do they usually hang out? What are their favorite media properties that they go to on a regular basis, or social media LinkedIn, if they're in LinkedIn, are they members of particular groups on LinkedIn? And that's when you start thinking, okay, now I know who they are, I know what my goals are, I know where they hang out, I know these are the kind of questions that they have answers to, or that they want answers to, and then I can start producing content that way. But I think that one of the things that we can get caught up in is in forever planning and never launching. The sort of perfection syndrome. And I think that's one of the things that, for example, if you go to Entre, Brian Clark talks about creating that minimum viable audience. Have an initial strategy, but your strategy is only as good as seeing the light of day. In other words, when you start launching your content, you will see if your strategy really is worth anything or not, right? Just like I think it was Eisenhower, President, when he was General Eisenhower, said, the planning is great, but the plans aren't worth anything. I'm really badly paraphrasing it, but you got to do the work of the planning. But when you actually get onto the beach in Normandy and start invading the territory, the plan is going to go out the wayside because the reality on the ground is different. So go out, create an initial plan. Focus on your goals. Your audience, what your audience's goals are, what problems they want answers to, where do they hang out, what are the types of content you can create, and start blogging or producing content, and look for opportunities to do guest blog posts or to produce guest video or podcast posts, and see what the feedback is, right? But I would say go to Entreproducer and see some of the articles they have about the minimum viable audience. Google minimum viable audience to get information about that.
Okay, great.
I hope that answers that question.
I think so, yeah. Here we have, Nikisha is asking, is Entreproducer the website you just said? What is the correct spelling?
Entre, so like entrepreneur, but entre, E-N-T-R-E, producer.
Okay, cool.
Hold on a second. I can probably. Here it is. This is the way to spell Entreproducer.
Great. I think that's it. Okay. And here we just have 1 minute, but I don't want to leave someone without his answer. Here Adnan asked, in terms of guest appearances, are you waiting for the other bloggers and people to come to you, or do you suggest to become a guest blogger?
Okay, so let me get into that. That's important. Lil Wayne, when he was starting off his hip hop career, he waited until he started producing really great songs, really good tracks, and then that's when he started getting noticed by other people, right? Now, when it comes to blogging or when it comes to people who are producing content, you got to make sure you have a pretty good body of content. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of content. Maybe you have 10 blog posts, or maybe you have an ebook that you've written, right? Or maybe you have a series of blog posts that are kind of like an ebook, but they're separated out into blog posts, right? But you got to make sure it's good, and ask your friends, hey, listen, can you be very brutally honest with me? Is this good? Does this provide value? How's the writing, etc.? Once you have something good that you can point to, then that's when you go out and you actually approach your guests, the potential people you want to guest post for. I say, hey, listen, I have an angle that I want to talk about related to your topic, and I think your audience would like this. I want to approach your topic from a little bit of a different angle based on my expertise, and I think I could write a great article. People are very welcoming to that. I mean, they're looking for content anyway, because everybody's now trying to compete and have regular content that they publish on a standard timetable. So anytime that they have somebody who's not a joker, somebody who's serious, and somebody who could produce valuable content, there goes value again, right? They'll welcome that, right? And so as part of my strategy with Latin IT marketing, I became actually a guest blogger for a publication called nearshore-americas.com, right? Every month I would publish an article on nearshore-americas.com. I wrote a few articles for softwareguru.com. It's a software magazine out of Mexico. I wrote for the website, etc.
Cool. Just a quick question here from Nikisha. should we do content a week or two in advance? What do you think about like scheduling?
Well, say that one more time, Fernando.
Here is, should we do content a week or two in advance? That's the question.
Oh, a week or two in advance?
Yes, like writing the content before, like taking time to
Yeah,
post
I think
it.
that any time that you can, yeah. I mean, I think it's always good to have articles teed up or content teed up maybe a few days, weeks in advance. I mean, it's helpful. If you've got the discipline to do it, I would say go for it. You know, especially if for example, you're a one-person show and you foresee that you're going to be doing some business travel or you're going to go on vacation. It's really nice to have a few backup articles, you know, ready, and if you have some kind of automated publishing system, you know, have those published automatically while you're away. So yeah, that's a good idea.
To quote you just a bit, when you said consistency, I think that's a big part of it. Try to keep the good content coming. If you have a blog, like try to be consistent and try to publish at least every week. And it's better if you have a specific day that people know that you are going to publish your new blog post. I think that's a really good tip for those who are starting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we had another question, but it's not exactly, no, it's not specific. It's about your presentation and the recording of the webinar. I want to tell everyone that we are going to be publishing the blog post with the presentation and the recording in the next days, and we'll be letting you know through an email so that you can watch it again and share with your friends. It's going to be great. I mean, this is part of our content marketing strategy, so we want to get as many people involved as we can, so feel free to share it. And I think, I don't know, Fernando, if you have something else to add?
No, I mean, I'm really, I feel privileged. I really wanted to thank you and everybody at Lander for the opportunity to speak to everybody. And you know, one last thing, I think everybody should look out for this other article, the article by Gary Vaynerchuk, not by, it's about Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm sorry, on ForbesMagazine.com, Forbes.com, because Gary Vaynerchuk says that this is, content marketing is not going away, it's actually getting more intense. And everybody is going to have to become a regular media producer. Gary Vaynerchuk used to produce all his own videos. Now he's hired somebody, check this out, he's hired somebody to follow him around everywhere and record him, video him, take down notes about his latest thoughts and produce content out of it. I mean, he's taking this stuff very seriously. And I think everybody should. You should too.
That's cool. Let me recommend our blog
and it's
also.
a competition about quality content. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So also we have some really good content about like content marketing and tips for your online marketing campaign. So take a look. It's blog at landerapp.com. Also, if you have any other questions regarding inbound marketing on landing pages, you can follow us on Twitter at landerapp, or look for us on Facebook. So we'll be more than glad to answer all your questions. And thank you, Fernando, for giving such a great webinar. We really enjoyed it. I think we have a really good response. Thank you, everyone, for all your questions and your interest. And I hope you can join us again in our next webinar. We'll be letting you know. I think we're going to have one on landing pages in about 15 days, so get ready. So, Fernando, thanks again, and see you later. Okay, bye.